All right, I'm going to go ahead and start. So hello and welcome to our first ever virtual Alice Report Town Hall, our 2020 Alice Report that had been released earlier this month. We would like this town hall to be interactive. If you have questions or wish to make comments during today's events, you can use the chat box, or you can feel free to join the conversation with your questions or comments. Also, when we close out the event, we'll be taking a screenshot of this event for marketing, so please remember to smile. We will plan to conclude this event on time at 1 p.m. I would now like to get our town hall started. Leading today's town hall discussion will be Paula Gilberto, President and CEO of United Way of Central and Northeastern Connecticut, and Annie Scully, Research Analyst and Community Outreach Coordinator at the United Way of Connecticut. I will now turn it over to Paula.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. It really is a pleasure to see so many of you. Before I get going, I do want to acknowledge all of you as individuals, those of you who are also representing companies, and companies that continue to be very generous in terms of special event proceeds, corporate contributions, sponsorships, as well as grants. All of you deserve a debt of gratitude from all of us at United Way, along with the people, the children, the families, the seniors that receive services thanks to your generosity. Alice is a great example of that. And I want to give an acknowledgement to our corporate partner, the Hartford as well as Xerox, through another United Ways relationship, are the sponsors of this year's Alice Report. So again, tremendous support, greatly appreciated. Wanted to welcome you, thank you, and also turn it over to Annie Scully, who is our Research Analyst and Community Outreach Coordinator at United Way of Connecticut. Annie?
Thanks, Paula, and good afternoon, everyone. As Paula said, I'm Annie Scully. I work at United Way of Connecticut, and I'm super excited to be with all of you today for this Women United Town Hall. So I'm sure that many of you have been following the Alice Project and Alice's story here in Connecticut. And as you might know, and as Julia said, we released our 2020 Alice Report earlier this month. So Alice is an acronym that stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed. And Alice households have earnings above the federal poverty level, but below a basic cost of living threshold. Next slide, please. In Connecticut, 27% of households qualify as Alice, which means that they earn above the federal poverty level, but below what the Alice Project defines as a basic cost of living. There are an additional 11% of households that live below that federal poverty level, which means that 38% of residents in Connecticut are struggling to make ends meet. If you look at the map of Connecticut, we see that every town and city across our state has an Alice household. In fact, in 148 of Connecticut's 169 towns and cities, at least 1 in 5 households are considered Alice. So this is a quick snapshot of the household survival budget methodology. Every 2 years, our United for Alice team undertakes a full review of this methodology to ensure that those measures are transparent, that they're replicable, and that they're current in order to reflect how much income is needed to support families in the modern economy. So these various data points define how that household survival budget is calculated, which is the tool that we use to define and to categorize Alice households. Next slide, please. So here's our 2020 Alice household survival budget. You see that there's 3 budgets defined in this household survival budget. A budget for a single adult, a senior adult, which is a new addition in our 2020 report, and then a family of 4, which includes 2 adults, 1 infant, and 1 preschooler. You'll see that if you look at the various line items of housing, childcare, food, transportation, technology, and then miscellaneous, that it is just the bare bone essentials that make up this household survival budget. We don't see a savings category. We don't see a vacation category. We don't see a category for cable television. And what that means is that many of our Alice households are living paycheck to paycheck without any financial stability or savings to be able to weather any kind of financial emergency. For a single adult, the hourly wage required to just maintain that basic cost of living is nearly $15. It's $14.45. For a senior adult, it's nearly $16 per hour. And for a family of 4 with that 1 infant and 1 preschooler, it's more than $45 per hour. And that's assuming that these adults are working full-time, 40 hours a week. If we drill a little bit closer down into what it costs for a single adult and a family of 4, once again, we see that a single adult needs nearly $15 per hour to support that household survival budget. So just to make ends meet, just to pay for that bare bones budget. And a family of 4 with 2 dependents, 1 infant and 1 preschooler, is once again more than $45 per hour. So let's take a closer look at how that budget sort of can quickly multiply or add up if we begin to add dependents, so an infant, a preschooler, or a school-age child to that single adult budget. So once again, that single adult budget includes just those bare bone essentials. And if we're looking at just what it costs to support that 1 adult, it's about $15 per hour, or almost $2,500 a month, or about $2,800, $2,900, $28,000 per year annually. But once we added an infant, if you look at the bottom of this chart, you'll see the calculations that we use to include dependents, so an infant, a preschooler, or a school-age child. You'll see that very, very quickly that household survival budget for a single adult can increase. So if we include 1 infant in addition to that single adult, that budget skyrockets to more than $52,000 per year. If we add 1 infant and 1 preschooler, we're looking at closer to $76,000 per year. And then if we add 1 infant, 1 preschool, and 1 school-age child, we're looking at more than $90,000 for that household to support that single adult and those 3 dependents, those 3 children. So it's no wonder that if you look at our next slide, families with children with only one single adult supporting that family make up just a disproportionate number of our Alice households across the state. And single female-headed households are by far and large those households that make up the largest percentage of Alice households. There are more than 89,000 single female-headed households with children in the state of Connecticut. And as you can see from this bar chart, we're looking at 73% of those households that live below the Alice threshold. That's 40% that live in Alice, so they're above that federal poverty level, but below a basic cost of living, as our Alice household survival budget defines. And then 33% of those households are considered to be living in poverty. Next slide, please. So of the groups that have a disproportionately high percentage of households below the Alice threshold, we see that single female-headed households are the largest contributor to that group. So 73% of single female-headed households with children are living below that Alice threshold. So once again, that includes both Alice households and those households living in poverty. Other groups that are disproportionately Alice, when we look at the percentage of those that are considered below the Alice threshold, are Black households, Hispanic households, households that are headed by an adult for under 25 years. And then if we look at that all households, we're looking at 38% of households, once again, that are considered Alice. So who is Alice? What does Alice do? We know that a defining characteristic of Alice is that they are employed. So these are working individuals that are contributing to our economy. These are the individual that takes care of our aging parents, the individual that teaches our kids in schools. There are personal care aides, our nursing assistants, our retail salespersons, our teaching assistants, our customer service reps. We lean on Alice every day for support. We need Alice to support our economy, to work those essential jobs. The COVID-19 pandemic revealed how important those Alice workers really are. I'm sure many of you with children experienced that transition of going from in-person learning to virtual learning, and you were so appreciative of those teachers and those teaching assistants that took that extra time to work with your children. Anyone that has aging parents or older parents that live in a senior living facility, I'm sure are more grateful than ever for those Alice workers that were bedside for those aging parents or older adults. So Alice works important jobs, but what we know about Alice is that those jobs are considered oftentimes low-wage jobs. So let's look at the next slide. I'm sure many of you have heard of the wage gap. So women in Connecticut typically make about 84 cents for every dollar that men are paid. And nationally, they're paid 82 cents for every dollar that men are made. If we dig a little bit deeper into the various demographics or races and ethnicities that are affected by this wage gap, we see that in Connecticut, for every 57 cents that a white man is paid, for every dollar that a white man is paid, a Black woman makes only 57 cents. For Latino women, it's only 48 cents for every dollar that a white man is paid. And so if we look at the next slide, we see that over time that adds up and pretty quickly. So if we look at across white women overall, I should say, and then Asian women versus white men, white non-Hispanic women versus white men, we can see on the far column, that far right-hand column, that for women overall, in order to catch up to a man's earning at age 60, they have to work till age 69. So that's 9 additional years of work. For Asian women versus white non-Hispanic men, it's 84 years, so an additional 4 years of working. For white non-Hispanic women versus white non-Hispanic men, it's 70 years, so an additional 10 years of work. For Black women, they have to work 84 years compared to what white non-Hispanic men have to work in order to just be able to catch up because of that wage gap, because they're earning less money for every dollar that a man does make. So this chart was extremely staggering for me to look at. And I think that if we look at some additional statistics around what women are paid and the types of jobs they hold across our Connecticut economy and across our Connecticut workforce, but also nationally, we see pretty quickly why that single female-headed household makes up such a large percentage of ALICE households in our state. So women are overrepresented in the low wage workforce. If we look at the pie chart on the left side of the screen, we see that in the overall workforce, 48% of women, it's made up of 48% women and 52% men. But when we look a little bit deeper and look at that low wage workforce, women are disproportionately represented. So 67% of women make up that low wage workforce compared to only 33% of men. If we look at that compared to the national average, it's about 47% of women that make up the overall workforce and 66% that make up those low wage occupations. In terms of low wage workforce, the way we define it here is occupations that have a median wage of less of $11.50 per hour or less. And that data comes from the National Women's Law Center. There's a link at the bottom of the slide. I encourage you all to look a little bit deeper at the data they have. It's pretty eye-opening, and once again, it just further reinforces why it's so important to pay attention to the percentage of households that are struggling in Connecticut and why so many of them are headed by females. So here's a little bit more data. If we look at the chart on the top of the screen, we're going to look at the percentage of women as opposed to men that make up those low wage workforces. So if we look at United States, we see that the likelihood that a woman works in a low wage job compared to a man is more than double. So it's 2.15. And that's the same here in Connecticut. We see that there's more than a double chance, a 2% chance that women are going to hold that low wage job as opposed to a man. And that chart on the bottom reinforces the data we looked at the previous screen. So if you're interested in the number of households and the number of individuals that make up that workforce and some more specific data, you can dig a little bit deeper looking at this slide. But I'll just remind you once again that in that low wage workforce, despite only making up 48% of the overall workforce, women here in Connecticut make up more than 66%. So 66.9% of that low wage workforce. So ALICE, like I said, ALICE keeps our economy running. ALICE works those important jobs. And if we look at this chart right here, we'll see that the types of work in Connecticut that keep our economy running are broken up into two basic categories. So first, at the very top of that pyramid, we'll see those innovator jobs. So those innovator jobs, as you can see from the scale on the right side of the screen, those innovator jobs are higher paying jobs. Innovators are 0% of those jobs pay less than $20 per hour. So $20 per hour brings you to about $40,000 per year if one adult is working full time. And then adapter jobs just below those innovators make up only 1% of those jobs make up less than $20 per hour. So innovator occupations and adapters, the way that we sort of define the type of work they do is that they implement existing tools or processes in new ways. They respond to opportunities and changing circumstances. So they might be managers, industrial and organizational psychologists, analyzers, designers, technicians, and even policymakers. The next category of jobs below that innovators job category is maintainers. And that category is segmented out into two two types of jobs. So there's nurturers and there's infrastructors. And those nurturers jobs we see make up the highest percentage of jobs that pay less than $20 per hour. And just like we sort of talked about with the types of jobs, the low wage workforce that's dominated by females, just by the title of that category, I'm sure that most of you are thinking, obviously most of those nurturer positions are made up by women. So we're talking about those home health care aides, we're talking about those teaching assistants, we're talking about traveling nurses or individuals that are bedside nurses for our aging adults. And those nurture jobs are disproportionately affected by low wage or are held by individuals that make low wages. So now I'm going to open it up for a quick poll. If you guys can activate the poll question, that would be wonderful. So hopefully everyone on your screen can see this poll right now. So we're going to ask you to go ahead and just respond in real time so we can go over the poll results. So the first question is, what data point surprised you the most? Choose one. And the second question is, what survival budget category is most important to you? So most important to you in support of Alice. Choose all that apply. I'll go ahead and ask everyone to submit their final responses, and we can together as a group go over those poll results, and then I'll turn it back over to Paula. Do we have the final poll results? So the first question we had was, what data point surprised you most? Choose one. And 43% of you said, I am not surprised. And I wonder if that's because there's been so much conversation around racial disparity and inequality, including the women and women holding low wage jobs, or because of the COVID-19 pandemic that's exposed so many inequalities around gender and race and ethnicity. But 43% did respond, I'm not surprised. The second question that we talked about was, what survival budget category is most important to you in support of Alice? Choose all that apply. And 83% of individuals responded housing, 76% of you said childcare, 69% said food, and then our fourth contender was transportation with 26%. So thanks so much, and I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Paula.
Thanks, Annie. I really appreciate it. And I just want to thank you all again for coming to today's session. Before I get into the trends, I do see that Karen Lott is with us today. And Karen Lott is the Executive Director of Women's League Child Development Center. Prior to that, prior to being phenomenal in her current job, she was phenomenal as the principal at Thurman Milner School. And I think Carol Jimenez from the YWCA is with us. I'm sure we have some other community partners. I just want to note that because what we do at United Way, we do as a result of an incredible network of community partners that you all as contributors have made possible. And we recognize that with respect to helping Alice households, it takes a community effort. As Annie covered when she was walking through what goes into a modern household budget, we do need to address childcare. We do need to make childcare affordable, not only because it's important for children in terms of their development, but because it also frees the adult, the caregiver, the parent, frees them up to be able to go to work, knowing that their child or children are in safe learning environments. We know how critical food is. Right? We know how critical safe and affordable housing is. So I just want to note that, give a shout out to the network that we have, and also our appreciation for what all of you do. Annie did a great overview in terms of statewide trends and how we compare nationally. I'm just going to commit Annie and myself that if those of you, particularly those that are with corporate partners, if you would like a presentation made on the Alice report tailored to your needs and your business needs, we are more than happy to do these types of virtual presentations and give you the information that you need. In terms of the report itself, know that this is our 4th report. We've been doing it now at 2-year intervals, so that's 8 years of data. This is just at a very high level. When we take a look at what was happening 2 years ago, 4 out of 10 households in our region and statewide were not earning enough to be financially successful, stable, independent. The good news is that that percentage has dropped a bit, right? So now we're talking about 35% of households living below that ALICE threshold. But I just want you to think about that for a moment, right? It is just under 4 out of 10 households. So while clearly progress has been made, and again, I think those of us that are affiliated with community-based organizations, philanthropy, United Way, it's because we are putting a human face on households that are struggling. We're raising awareness about ALICE, because we are investing in quality, affordable childcare, because we are investing in job training programs that not only get people a job, but it's a job with advancement opportunities. Because we are addressing the basic needs of food and housing, we have seen this slight increase. That's great. But clearly, if you are one of % of households, you're still struggling. We can and we must do better by them. We have seen improvement, particularly in the core city of Hartford. 2018, 3 out of 4 households were financially insecure. Got a little bit better. Now we're talking about 2 out of 3 households. And again, while that is improvement, if you are the 2 out of the 3 households, it's still not good for you not to be financially secure and independent. Despite what we've seen as some improvement, we know clearly that the pandemic has brought incredible health challenges, health hardships, as well as economic hardships to working families. And we also know that the household survival budget continues to increase, and Annie touched upon that. If we go to the next slide, just wanted to show you in more detail what that household survival budget is. So if we can advance, there you go. All right, so Annie talked about this in terms of what one needs to earn on an hourly basis, and that is statewide, right? This data is specific to the 52 communities in our service area. So as you can see, if you're a single adult, you're talking about needing an annual income of up to nearly $28,000. We know that young adults carry significant debt in terms of post-secondary education, and that is a factor. And then when we take a look at the most precious household that is also the most expensive household, 2 adults that have an infant and a preschooler, and recognizing the significant percentage that needs to go into housing along with childcare. So we're looking at needing an annual income for that size family of nearly $90,000. What's notable about this is that when this report was done 2 years ago, that 2 adult, 1 infant, 1 preschooler household was $75,000. So you can see that in 2 years' time, we're talking about another $15,000, but cost of living, wages have not gone up by that amount. We get into the next slide. One of the things that was interesting about this report is that it showed that there's about 13% of Connecticut residents that are hovering right at that ALICE threshold. 13%, they're making just over that amount. We know from what we've learned from our community partners that that 13% has slipped, and they have slipped into financial instability. Many of us have contributed directly to United Way, to our Connecticut food banks, Connecticut Regional Food Bank and Food Share. What we know from talking to them is that they are seeing upwards to 70% people coming for food that never needed food supplements before. Let's just think about that. 70% more people, right, going to food banks and mobile food spots that never needed food before. And again, it speaks to that percentage that is fragile and slipped further. We know that despite everyone's best intention, people have experienced a loss of income, right? Bars shut down, restaurants shut down for an extended period of time. People have been furloughed. People are being laid off if they've not already been laid off. So that experience of loss of income, again, if you are financially fragile, very challenging. My hats off to all of you as parents who are managing your childcare and managing distance learning, let alone those that are caring for people who are elderly. So again, we know that parents are experiencing significant challenges, and those in the sandwich generation are as well. We also know from our partners that manage domestic violence programs that domestic violence is more prominent, right? So those needs have gone up. And clearly and unequivocally, ongoing racial disparities, ongoing deep-rooted racial disparities have just been much more pronounced in terms of the effects of COVID-19 and access to health, to basic human needs, and to financial resources. We go to the next slide. So what have we done, right? What has your local United Way done? And what have we been able to do because of your support as individuals, as corporate partners, as nonprofit partners? Thanks to your incredible generosity, we were able to act immediately through our Neighbors in Need Fund to provide emergency funding to health and human service organizations. And we did not limit that, by the way, just to nonprofits that are part of our network. We cast the net and we provided emergency funding to ensure that food, housing, basic needs, personal protection equipment, all were provided. We were able to also give immediate direct financial support to individuals and families that were affected the hardest. And I just want to give a shout out to our colleagues from Travelers, because they stepped up in a phenomenal way, both in terms of the Connecticut COVID-19 Response Fund, as well as United Way Worldwide's fund. Here's what's critical. There was a gap in time for people to be able to file for unemployment, to find out what services that they qualified for. And because of Travelers, because of other corporations, because of individuals, Connecticut United Ways were able to get upwards to $200 out immediately to individuals that had lost their jobs or had been furloughed, helping to bridge that gap in some way. On a long-term basis, and this is my answer to why United Way. Why United Way? We have been investing for decades in helping families be financially self-sufficient and stable. And we know that it begins with a good job. So it's about training people for jobs that employers need and value, skilling them up, and helping them to grow so that they progress in their wages. It's around financial and health resources. So we've partnered with the City of Hartford and other municipalities on a public health education campaign. We're also partnering with the City of Hartford and others on a financial education campaign, connecting people to quality, certified financial coaches and savings programs. And again, thanks to Karen Lott, Women's League, the YWCA, Growing Tree, and many other nonprofit certified childcare providers, making sure that childcare is affordable and is of quality. We go to the next. And then it comes down to Women United. So as I reflect back in terms of a pretty long career here at United Way, one of the things that I clearly am most proud of is that we established a Women United unit, that we got together and brought women together who cared about the financial security of others. And as a result, since 2012, Women United has raised more than $1.5 million to help local women and families. That's a lot of money, and it's important, right? And it's been done through people becoming members, such as yourselves. It's been done through sponsorships of core events. It's been done through Red, White, and Chocolate and Power of the Purse. And it's been done in the interests of local women and families. And here's what you, as Women United, have done. You've helped ensure that women, the majority of whom are single head of household, not only identified their financial goal, but they're on the path to achieving it. You all, through your contributions, have ensured that women and families participating in these programs are receiving quality financial coaching. They're participating in a match savings program, and they're also working to obtain quality jobs and career advancement. We have many partners that are doing this work, many partners. Among the top and among the best is the Village for Families and Children, which is managing the financial resource center that Women United developed and launched. Really pivotal. So thank you for that. I'm about to turn it over to Julia, but before I do, again, I just want to thank all of you for your personal and corporate contributions and partnerships. We would love to continue to get this out to as many audiences as possible. So we have the full report, an executive summary, a town-by-town breakdown, the ability to do customized town hall meetings, and also the ability to help all people kind of virtually experience what it's like living paycheck to paycheck if you're not currently doing it or come from a family like mine that had, through a virtual experience called Making Choices. So let's keep partnering. We have a lot more work to do. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our leader, Julia Johnson.
And Julia and Paula, thank you so much. And Julia, before we turn to you, I just wanted to, we're a little ahead of schedule, which is great. Want to pause here for any questions that any of you may have. So you can either type them in or you can feel free to turn on your microphone.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Karen.
Can you hear me? I'm just always personally so compelled by the Analyst report. As a nonprofit organization, we employ many of our staff would fall into this Analyst category. And one of the things that I've been inspired to do from the information from the Analyst reports was to always keep an eye on our wages for our staff. And we were on a trend to continue to increase wages. But of course, COVID and the financial crisis that we kind of find ourselves in right now in our budget has put that on hold. But I just want to say thank you to the United Way for this just incredible information that helps me as a director of a nonprofit organization keep an eye on how important it is to not only provide services, provide affordable childcare to the community, but to also support our staff, who again comprise this Analyst and lastly, enlightening in today's presentation was the gender gap. And particularly for women of color, you know, it means I got to work until I'm 84 to, have an equivalent earnings of, my white male counterparts. And so I think that just really illuminates one of the reasons why women of color in the community of women of color also are also stricken by so many of these health issues, right, that also complicate this whole COVID crisis. And so I thank you for highlighting that, because I think it's a reminder that we can never pull away race, gender, income. Like, we can't pull those things apart and see them as separate entities, as so many people are trying to do right now. So again, I just want to say thank you. want to continue to find ways that I can support my staff and support the United Way.
Thank you.
You know, I'm curious, as I think, I don't want to put our partners on the spot, but Tammy, since I see you, you're in my line of sight. Tammy Freeberg is with the Village for Families and Children, and just curious, Tammy, what the Village is experiencing, you know, COVID-19 wise, in terms of what families are struggling with.
I mean, I think what we are seeing really affirms what you're saying, or what you're saying affirms what we're seeing. But the kind of we recognize, I think, as as nonprofit health and human service providers, that this idea of protective factors and what can help kids be resilient in the face of adversity, and concrete assistance in times of need is one of those research-based protective factors, and it's something that we attend to across our programs. While the Village is not at its heart a basic needs provider, we're a behavioral health, family strengthening provider, we recognize that basic needs assistance has to be a cross-cutting component if any of those services are to be effective. And I think we have seen an increased demand for this concrete assistance, basic needs assistance, from food to diapers to and what we're beginning to see more, and particularly as protections are being pulled back, kind of housing related, for maintaining housing stability, right? Because it's a big bill, and when money gets tight, it can be a hard one to lift. And if you're subject to eviction or facing changes, that kind of housing stability has ripple effects on all sorts of things. That's going to cost you more. It might disrupt your kids' education. It kind of crosses all of the priority areas that United Way focuses on. So we're seeing now an uptick in the housing related requests. So to help people kind of stay in their homes. And it was interesting, I think one of the polls, housing kind of pulled pretty high earlier in the meeting. So I think that is a priority area.
I just want to jump in really quick. That's a wonderful point, and something that is concerning, and I know my colleagues at 211 United Way of Connecticut and Connecticut United Way support, and we run 211 out of the United Way of Connecticut office. Today, October 30th is the end of the eviction and utilities moratorium, which means that people that haven't been able to pay their rent, that have back rent due for the past 4 to 6 months, that have been furloughed, have lost their jobs, are now going to be asked to pay that rent or will be evicted. And it's terrifying, and it's just like you said, Tammy, those protective factors, and like was mentioned earlier, that women, in particular women of color, are subject to lower wages and are up against the wall. Financial stability is a public health crisis, and it's becoming an issue right now more than ever. And we know that some of those baseline supports and services that have been protecting families throughout this pandemic are disintegrating. So just food for thought.
Before I turn it over, I do want to acknowledge that in addition to all of you as contributors and volunteers, our team is able to do the work that it does because we have just phenomenal board members. And I see that Jen Shanley from Robinson and Cole, Vicki Pace from Hartford are both joining us today. If there are other board members that I have missed, my deep apologies. And I see many of our philanthropic partners as well. And again, just want to note that all of us working together will continue to make a difference. And again, I see that Sarah Morin is on the line. So I want to thank Sarah once again for the Hartford's contribution to ensuring that this report happened this year. So thank you, as well as all of the other ways that we're partnering. One of the things that we learned, if I just take a moment with respect to Alice, is that there is a distinct business case for all of our organizations to focus in on Alice and to support Alice in being financially secure and independent. One of the things that we know from our conversations with the Hartford is that they realize the significant number of policyholders in terms of group benefits, disability, life insurance, et cetera. And the challenge sometimes that call specialists face when they're delivering, this, the benefit, but they're talking to somebody who's lost a loved one or someone who has become disabled. And in wanting to empower call specialists to do more than just pass out the business information, but to connect those beneficiaries to services in their local communities, led to us, but mainly Annie, providing training in how to use the 211 network so that we have many more ambassadors out there that are able to connect people with services in their local communities. So again, a great example of a business case to help Alice is not only helping more households become financially stable, but it's also helping all of us, right? Those of us that are providing services to be more empowered and to be able to connect people to real services in real times that make a difference. I think now I am turning it back to Julia.
Yes, so we're going to take a poll.
You know what? I think we're actually gonna just skip the poll. We answered both poll questions, so we're just gonna move on.
Okay, so no poll.
No poll.
So next slide. All right, so thank you again, Annie and Paula, for leading today's town hall. And thank you to everyone for your participation. I would like to call your attention to a couple events coming up soon that you might be interested in. We invite you to join our Women United team for the Eversource Hartford Marathon by signing up or donating to our team from October 8th to October 11th. On October 15th, we are celebrating Women United's 10th anniversary with a virtual cocktails and conversation, and we hope to see you all there. And as always, if you are not currently a member of Women United, please consider joining us, getting involved in the important work you heard about today. Now is a great time to join us, as many of you have had an opportunity as part of your fall workplace giving initiatives. You can also renew a membership or join for the first time by visiting www.unitedwayinc.org/donate. Should you have any questions relating to Women United membership, please contact Lauren at United Way. All right, so thank you again, and I hope you guys have a great day.